Susan has been an entrepreneur all her life. She has completed 2 marketing degrees, built from scratch several companies, and helped in the launch of hundreds of businesses. Susan is an effective marketer who combines strategy, technology, and tactics to increase results. Susan, an expert in SEO and conversion, calls herself an internetologist and now helps entrepreneurs and companies succeed online through her company New Earth Marketing of over 20 years and the Grand Connection Business Networking Community. I will give you Susan Jarema.
Hey, thank you. Today, I'm just going to give a little bit of a talk today about effective websites. This is part of a larger talk that I've done for VBN, and also I have up on my YouTube channel. And if you love it, because I know everybody just loves conversions, you can I'll give you a link to the talk and you can take a look at the full version of it. I started my business, this one in 2008. And I started working on, I've built over hundreds of websites for different people. I do not only websites directly for clients, but I also do the White House label websites for other marketing agencies. Your website is a tool. And I just want to come across, some people just think, oh, this is a brochure online. It's not. It's actually one of the most important marketing tools you have. I mean, you yourself as a salesperson is probably your number one. And second is your website. It does marketing. It helps you sell. It does your customer service on it. It holds information like your product information, prices, packages, privacy policy, your COVID plan. And it's used by all sorts of different people like, that are looking up your address. New leads find you. Existing customers look up things. You might have something you send out to people that's just information and part of your programs or whatever you're doing. So it actually is the house of all of your content, or it can be. And you can have login areas and all sorts of stuff. It can have worksheets, manuals, digital downloads, reference materials. And it's also sometimes the product. If you're a membership program or if you have an online course, this can all be done through your website. So it's really, really, really important. And building an effective website, you can go and put something up on Wix or Weebly and get that done really quickly. And if you have a marketing bend or you've gone through the process, your website could be quite effective the first time round if you're doing it having gone through the process before. But there's a lot involved. You've got the design, you've got the brand, you've got the front end, there's the back end, the CMS and how all that works. Do you have all the right plugins that's keeping your website secure? And there's a lot of things that are beyond, just getting something up there that actually make it sell for you better. With a winning website, you want visitors to your site to stick around, to learn about you, to absorb and take action and convert. And when user engagement is high, your audience becomes more loyal and you get return visits and higher conversions. And because your website, it just works. And what you do, and while you do that, actually in my other chat, I have this lovely trip through time, but we're not going to do that today. So if you go to the other talk, I go through the history of web design, which is really quite fun because the World Wide Web started in 1991 and 1992 was the first website. And think back to what you were doing then. I know I was traveling around the world with my best friend, starting another business a long time ago before I even knew anything about digital marketing. So it was a long time ago. There's also various tools for your website. You can use CMS builders. There's open source software like WordPress, Drupal, Joomla. And then there's all sorts of e-commerce platforms like WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Shopify, Wix. But the point is, whatever you're using, go through a process that you take the perspective of the customer and try to see how they have a user experience and what's going to work for them. And this is in my talk. I talk all sorts about different builders, which has a whole bunch. I do an analogy and a story like Lego, which is a lot of fun. One thing that's really important is you can only make a first impression once. And you want a website that's going to meet their needs and work the first time somebody comes to it. Main things: get found, it works, and it converts. There's 8 principles of web design that I'm just going to whip through really fast, but it'll spark something in you and that you can go into deeper. Know your customer. The most important thing is to really get an idea of who that customer is, because when you know your customer, and this happens in all marketing pieces, like Suzanne's printed materials, Kimberly, when she's doing her programs, one of the things she's going to say right away, know your customer. And this will allow you to target them and make sure that the messaging on the site really works. And sometimes you may think you know what your customer wants, but ask them. Your customer knows what they want more than you do. And you can be slightly not aligned with what the customer is actually looking for. And you need that outside perspective. Another thing for a good website is that it should have a purpose. What is the goal of your website? Is it to sell, to educate, to build trust? Are they there to buy something? Do you want to get downloads? Do you want them to register, fill in a form? In that website, you need to describe your expertise, how you build your reputation, how you're going to generate those leads, and it could have sales and after sales care in there too. The third thing is brand. And this is a whole talk into itself that we can do maybe next year when I have another round of this. We'll go into some branding. Branding is not just your logo. It's so much more. And the reason I picked up an image that kind of is squiggly here is because it's moving and shifting. It's not solid. You're not going to come up with your brand today and it's going to be the same in 5 years. Just be open and listen to the market, and slowly your brand is going to evolve as the world evolves. Fourth thing is simplicity. Apple is like the best example of simplicity. You know, look at the colors, the type, the font types, the images. How can you keep your website simple and clean that doesn't look busy and cluttered? Apple in itself is a brand that's well known. So in most small businesses, we need something that has a little more information than Apple would have, because our brand isn't as well known as Apple, and you still have to tell people what you do. When we go to Apple, we know what they do, but for us, we at least need that tagline or description right at the start of the site saying what you do. Layout is important. Navigation needs to be simple, intuitive, and consistent. And people have probably heard of the F shape. Who's heard of that? Anybody? I can only see 4 of you. None of you have your hands up. Oh my gosh, there might be somebody else that has it. The F shape was this study, and everybody used to talk about it about 5 years ago, how big it is. It's not as true now. Like this, if you look at these studies with the F shape, it's really content driven. Most websites now are more picture driven. So the F shape doesn't work as well. And it's more about having the right titles and breaking your site into pieces that people scan. And if you want to take a screenshot, these are really good tips for how to lay out the design on your website. The most important thing, keep your important points in the first paragraphs. This is if you have a lot of text. Use heading and subheadings. Start your headings with important words. Use power words if you're doing good marketing, and group the stuff together. So these are the kind of things that will help if you've got a lot of text, make it so that people who scan will find the content they're looking for. Another important thing is visual hierarchy. Group things together, have big things that are important larger, have colors that stand out like red for buttons, and use textures and motion to create parts of the website that you can notice. So there's a science to this, and knowing how to do that when you're building your website will make it convert better. The seventh thing is, and was that 7? Yeah, I got 7. The seventh thing is content. Here is, again, a big part of what a lot of us do is we create good content and we can repurpose it and we use it in social media. It can get overwhelming when you're thinking through the content of a website. And when I build them with clients, we start off with the homepage and then we move through the rest of the site. And when you're doing things like landing pages, sales pages, squeeze pages, and your homepage, try to find words in this content that inspire action. Use power words. And there's a lot of lists you can find. If you Google power words online, you'll see lots of them that you can kind of bump up your website content to make it sell better. And it takes more time. This quote by Winston Churchill, you know, he used to, if you wanted to talk for 2 minutes, it takes him 3 weeks to prepare. If you want to talk for 30 minutes, it's a week. And if he has an hour, he's ready right away. The longer we have, the easier it is the more space. But if you are trying to get that concise messaging, you're going to have to do a little bit of work to do it. But once you have that done, you can use it throughout all your marketing materials. And 8, performance. You want your website to load well. You want it to work on a phone. You want the links to work. And you want everything loading and going. Nothing broken. Work on all browsers. Your forms, testing. Make sure every month you test your website so that things are working. Sometimes I've had clients come to me and they haven't been on their website for a long time and they think, oh, this form isn't working. But what's happened is a theme's updated or the captions have changed and something breaks. So you need to be checking things that are important to you on a regular basis. Just stick it in your calendar and do that. Another important thing to have on your website is WordFence, so that you make sure that your site is being monitored for the security and doesn't get malware as easily. And of course, part of performance is good SEO on the site, so your website actually gets found. Another part with performance is measuring things. Make sure you get your Google Analytics. If there's one thing you haven't done yet today and you don't have it, get your analytics and Google Webmaster Tools going. You'll get notifications from Google saying when things are broken on your site for some of the things, and it gives you ideas on how to fix and optimize your website. You need to know if you aren't measuring something, you can't improve it. So get your analytics going. For conversions, it's much easier to double your business by doubling your conversion rate than by doubling your traffic. It's way easier. A little bit of work, tightening up the conversions and going from a 5% conversion to a 50% conversion can triple your business. So these are important things to think about. And you could spend all this time on marketing, and if you have like all this lead generation and all these things, and when people land there, they don't sign up, that means that you haven't focused on the right message, reaching the right audience, and that you have things in your website that actually are enticing so that people will follow through and convert. I have a whole bunch that we talked to in my longer talk. It's important, better customer-oriented messaging, engagement. I have a whole talk I do on what makes them click, which is really fun. This is the psychology of marketing. That's really good. And these books here are by Susan Weinschenk. If you are ever looking for it, they're very fun to read. Another thing we talk about is Gestalt design rules. And these, as we've got a graphic designer in the group, you know about this. There's lots of rules when you're building your site out and doing the design part that make it work and easier for the user experience, nicer on the eye. And when it's a nicer experience, of course, people are more likely to buy. Another thing that helps with their conversions is turning when people sign up into a marketing engine that actually brings people into a funnel and nurtures and engages with people. So there's so much you can do on a website. It's nice to have somebody look from outside and another perspective. You can't see the forest through the trees. I'm happy to give your site an audit and review it with you and just give it another perspective. Thank you, Susan Jarema, New Earth Marketing. It was very fun to talk to you, and always here for you in the group here if you have any questions. I also have a workshop, which I put in the chat earlier, my Boost Your Conversions and Get Found with a Winning Website. So that is free on January 30th. It's by donation. If you want to provide any donations to Project Somos, our charity from the Grand Connection in December, I'm donating the funds to that.